Welcome to It's All Greek to Me, Section 2, moving right along. So, by now you should be reading Oedipus Rex, and I'm going to give you something that'll help you get through this as you're reading it. Okay, so all Greek plays are broken up in a very specific way, and I want you to know what that way is because that'll help you as you're reading Oedipus Rex. So, the very first thing that you're going to read or see if you're watching the video is the prologue. The prologue, just like in a book, is the opening speech. So the prologue is the opening speech. From the prologue comes the prodos, Prados, and the prodos, is the song that is sung by the chorus as it enters the orchestra. First there's a speech in the prologue, and then there's the prodos, the song sung by the chorus as it enters the orchestra. After that, you have an episode. Now, an episode is a series of events that happen just like an episode of Friends or an episode of Game of Thrones. What you need to know when you're reading Oedipus Rex is that there are five episodes, right? So something happens in an episode. You have the prologue, you have the prodos, an episode happens, and then right after the episode happens, there's something called a stansimon. Stansimon, right? Stasimon. Stansimon. So the stansimon is the choral song that is sung in response to the action. So remember how many episodes were in Oedipus Rex? So after something happens, there's an episode, then there's a stansimon, choral song sung in response to the episode you just saw or the episode you just read. Episode, stansimon. Episode, stansimon. Episode, stansimon. Episode, stansimon. Episode, stansimon. If there's 5 episodes, how many stansimons will be in between each of them? Right. Okay. 5 episodes in Oedipus Rex, 5 stansimons to follow. The Exodus is the exit song. So it's what the chorus sings as they're exiting the show. It ends the play. So if you look at an exit sign, you'll know that means it's time to go, right? This is the way to go if you want to leave. Exodus. Yes, it is a passage in the Bible, but for our intents and purposes in Greek theater, that is when the chorus exits. You know what, guys? Let's go over this again. The prologue, opening speech. Prodos, the song sung by the chorus as it enters the orchestra. Episode, which will be 5 in Oedipus Rex. And then a stansimon, which is the choral song sung in response to the action. Then finally, you have the Exodus, where everyone leaves. All right? In comedy, there's something called a parabus, and I'm not going to ask you about this on the quiz, but just so you know, in comedy, there's that direct address to the audience from the playwright. You also need to know that all violence was kept off stage. So in Oedipus Rex, he does something to his eyes, pokes them out, right? That's pretty gross, right? Eye stuff in general is pretty gross, but poking out your eyes is particularly gross. And it would be uncouth, uncool, and not respected to show him doing that in Grecian theater. So the guy playing Oedipus Rex, remember it was a guy, it was always men, would go off stage, poke, get something gross or get some fake blood, and then come back out with his eyes all bloody because the violence was kept off stage. Very different than today, right? If you look at horror movies, the camera can sometimes be right on the violence, and people clamor for that. Sometimes, not me. I'm scared of everything. I think I have The Shining. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Greek chorus, right? So traditionally, the Greek chorus had 15 men, 15, 1-5, all right? So the mayor would appoint someone called the choregus, Choregus, who was this wealthy dude, and he paid for everything to happen. So he was kind of like a producer. He was also in charge of training and costuming the chorus. And well-to-do Athenians wanted to be the choregus. They wanted to be like, yeah, I'm in charge. So people were sort of clamoring for that very specific honor. You need to know that the chorus, the 15 men, were assigned 11 months before the show. And during that time, the chorus would train like athletes. Often, they would be clothed or they would be almost completely naked. So it was very important to have a beautiful body. Now let me ask you something. Is that still important? Is it important to be beautiful and to have a svelte young body? Yeah, it is. Thanks a lot, Greeks. They're the ones who started this whole shebang. Well, they may have lit the torch, but society as a whole has picked it up and ran with it. And side note is that's what my play is about, weighing in. It's about the ticker tape of self-doubt we have in our minds if we're not physical perfection. But let me ask you guys something. If you had 11 months with a trainer who was supervising your food and your activity, do you think you could be an example of physical perfection? I'm going to go with yeah. Yeah. See me in 11 months after my trainer. I don't know. I'm thinking about a cupcake right now, so probably that's not going to happen for me. But I do love chocolate. Okay, so the purpose of the chorus. Now, the chorus, I'm going to say this. It was kind of like a mother-in-law. The chorus was like a mother-in-law. It gave opinions. It threatened to interfere with the action if they didn't like what was going on. Oh no, honey. Honey, you should not be sleeping with that woman. That's like what a chorus would say. I don't know why I affected that particular accent, but they would always do that. Like something would happen and they'd be like, oh, oh no, you didn't. Right? They were like the people in social media commenting on every single freaking thing. An episode would happen and the chorus would comment. So I want you to think of the chorus as a stereotype of a mother-in-law, threatening to interfere with the action. Oftentimes, the chorus would actually mouth the playwright's philosophy. So let's say, since I'm the playwright, that I wanted everyone to be like aware of the fact that we're doing more harm than good when we have negative self-messages playing. If this was in Grecian times, the chorus would just outsay that. You know, you're doing more harm when you start talking bad about yourself to snap out of it. You know, that's what they would do. They would mouth the playwright's philosophy. They would threaten to interfere with the action. They would comment it every time. It was almost kind of like annoying, okay? Because action would happen and then they'd come and they'd comment on it. Does that make sense? Does it? I can't hear you. Right, I'm sure it does. Know that the chorus also established mood and heightened dramatic effects. They provided color, they provided spectacle, and let's see where I am. A performance was open to everybody, including prisoners. It was very important that everybody saw theater, which I think is pretty freaking cool, right? The seats at the front were reserved for the best paying patrons, probably the choregus, since he was the guy who made everything responsible. Officials were responsible for keeping order. So if someone misbehaved in a Colosseum setting, they would kill them. They would disembowel them or crucify them or show like, here's what happens when you misbehave. Sounds pretty harsh, right? but there were thousands of people there. And so because we tend to think sort of in herd mentality, if someone started being really angry and belligerent and fighting, chances are a lot of people would catch on to that and continue that wave. And so rather than worry about it, officials were like, they'd cut it off, literally. You need to know that they did wear the masks still. Okay, so we still have these colorful wooden carved things with built-in megaphones. And they were all men. They were still all men. There was a little bit of music, mostly flute, just a little bit of flute and percussion. Maybe somebody had like bell on their ankle, so they would play the flute and then have their foot stomp along. Not too much music-wise. Okay, so we talked about the chorus, the 15 men who acted as mother-in-law, who mouthed the playwright's philosophy. We talked about the parts of the Greek play, and now you're ready to read Oedipus Rex. Very short part 3 to follow. Keep up the good work, guys.